Now, look at it this way. See the whole vast world as infinite states. All states. If they're all states, and you are an immortal being, you are not a state, you are immortal. You enter a state, and the state becomes alive. Therefore, you are not to blame if you enter a state unwittingly, and it's a horrible state. Men not knowing that you are in a state, they condemn you. But you have to express the contents of that state. If you enter the state of poverty, you have to experience poverty. If you remain in it, you must go and drink that to the very last drop, the dregs of that cup. If you go into any state and remain in that state, you're going to drink it to the very last drop. But you can get out of a state. You don't have to remain in it if you know it's a state. If you don't know it's a state, you identify yourself with the state and think that you're it. Man has identified himself with this little body, and he thinks he is it. So the day comes, he has to discard it because he's worn it out. As he discards it, all of his friends are crying to think he died. He can't die. He is an immortal being who wore a garment of flesh and blood. That same being who goes into states, remaining in a state, and the state has to be expressed by him who resurrected the state. For I am the resurrection and the life of that state. Now, you can change an individual with or without his consent if you so desire. Here is the story of a friend of mine. I persuaded him to give up his job here. I knew he was a single man, and he would like to do what I am doing. So I said, San Francisco is wide open. I only go there once a year for 4 weeks at a time. Now I have reduced it to 2 weeks at a time. But I used to go, in the early years, 4 weeks. I said, they need someone badly who knows this law. You can't teach the promise because you do not know it. You can tell it, but from hearsay, because you have not experienced the promise. But you do know the law. And you are presentable, you are a gentleman, you go up there, I will not give you any money. But I will give you my mailing list of 500. It's a live list. And you send out my list. When I go, I will tell them that I allowed you to have my list, and I will get behind you in that manner, but not in any other way. You've got to go on faith. Well, he quit his job here. He had seniority of 8 years in the place that he worked. He goes up to San Francisco, and he made arrangements to open. He had a little dog, lovely little dog, and he was walking this dog one afternoon before he opened. And a man came over and greeted him and said, what a nice little dog you have. And then after the usual greetings, he said, can you help me out? I haven't eaten today. I'm out of work. And my friend said, no, I have no money, but I will do what I can, but I can't give you any money. The man couldn't quite understand that. You can't give me money. What else could you do? My friend did not move one step after he said no to the request. The man went on. He remained there until he imagined that man in his presence, gainfully employed, happy in the job, and standing on his own feet. That was taken the story in the book of Acts, when a man came to John and Peter, and he could not stand on his own feet, and he was begging at the temple door. And Peter said, gold and silver have I not for thee, but such as I have give I unto you. Rise and walk. And he rose and walked. It doesn't mean a cripple jumped up and walked. That's an entire different structure that I do know is possible when you wear the garment of God. You couldn't come into the presence of anyone as a cripple. The minute you came by, he ceases to be a cripple. If he has no feet, feet come and fill the sockets. If he's blind, they come in and fill the sockets. And he is not blind. And you do nothing to do it. No compassion. You simply are so perfect that nothing imperfect can remain in your presence. But in this case, on this level, no one is actually going to jump up from the crippled state and start walking. But he takes a man who is crippled, who is standing on other people's feet by begging from them. Well, a month later, He was walking his dog and he saw this man and he crossed the street. The man crossed the street and came over to him. He said, I don't suppose you remember me. He said, oh yes, I do. I remember you just about a month ago that you asked me for money. He said, yes, and I want to thank you for not giving it to me, and extended his hand to my friend. He said, had you given me the money, I today would be asking you for money. Because you did not give me, I was so embarrassed and so annoyed with myself that I put myself in that position. I went out the very next day and I got a job, a good job. It pays well. And it has promise of growth. And I am very happy in the job. So again, let me thank you for not giving me the money. He put the man on his own feet by representing him to himself as one gainfully employed. That's what I'm talking about when I tell you the all states. He took him out of one state and put him in another state. The man who is in the new state is the same man. You are an immortal being. You are changing only when you fall into a state. And others who knew you well in one state think, what has happened to him? You either go up or you go down. If they see a radical change, and they wonder what has happened to him. He is affluent, he is this, he is that, or what has happened to him? He used to be, and look at him now. And not a thing changed with the immortal being who occupies the state, other than the state. He changed the state. Man, not knowing that, he condemns the state. When it's not the being that you're looking at a state. So God forgives everyone. He justifies everyone because he knows they're only in states. And the Lord created all these states. These are the states. So that's what Blake meant when he said, I do not consider the just or the wicked to be in a supreme state, but to be every one of them states of the sleep, which the soul may fall into in its deadly dreams of good and evil, when it left paradise, following the serpent.